The following podcast is going to contain just all kinds of silly junk from over 10 years ago. Just silliness. Pure, unadulterated silliness. Proceed at your own risk. Hello and welcome to another episode of Just Another Fanboy. This is a bonus episode, the first of a series of bonus episodes that I will be putting out there for you that will fall between seasons 2 and season 3, which launches the week of July 23rd. Now, I say the week because I haven't quite decided how I'm going to launch yet. There's a big part of me that wants to go back to doing at least 2 episodes a week, and it's going to depend on what kind of backlog I can produce between now and then. Because I have all these, like the ElfQuest episodes and the Madman episodes, and I want to keep doing the Wolverine episodes, and I want to do some G.I. Joe episodes. Well, you do that once a month, and where are you going to have time to talk about other books that you may read? It's, I don't want to end up with the podcast that's like, this week is an ElfQuest episode, next week is a Madman episode, next week is a Wolverine episode, next week is a G.I. Joe episode, and then you just start it back over again. That's going to be, you might as well call it the ElfQuest, Madman, Wolverine, G.I. Joe podcast, right? So the only way I want to do, can't talk. Anyway, that just throwing out some bonus behind the scenes for you there, folks. This episode is what you're going to get in this episode basically is freaking content that is, I'm not sure exactly when it was recorded and when it was released. It's an old episode of the original Just Another Fanboy podcast from over a decade ago. This episode is at least 10 years old, and it's actually a clip show that I put together featuring clips from the show that were at least a year or two older than the episode itself. So you're getting content that's about 11 to 12 years old, and it's featuring these 2 characters. I'm doing air quotes here, characters that I did on the show called Norman, Oklahoma and Gary, Indiana. And if you've listened to the Stephen or Else podcast where I do Franks and Beans, that's where Franks and Beans came from. But Franks and Beans is more of, I would do these audio sketches before the show, whereas Norman and Gary were characters that I created that were like co-hosts of the show. They would come on, they would do their own segments in the opening minutes of the show when I would be, talking about what we're going to talk about and all that junk. Sometimes Norman would come in, and I treated them very much like, there was a tongue-in-cheek inside joke kind of thing that I wasn't the one doing the voices. They were actual real people who would come into the studio and all that. Anyway, I did a couple of clip shows featuring them. They're both, I enjoy both of the clip shows. This was the first one. I don't think it's as strong as the second clip show, but I wanted to present it to you because another bonus episode that I'm going to be giving you in a few weeks is going to be all the Franks and Beans sketches. And I kind of want to, before I throw out all the Franks and Beans sketches, I want to show where those guys came from. Franks and Beans were in essence Norman, Oklahoma and Gary, Indiana. I had to stop when I started doing Stephen or Else, instead of just going forward, continuing with Norman and Gary. I decided not to do that because I wrote a book, The Adventures of Norman, Oklahoma, who uses that character's name, but is a completely different person. And I didn't want to confuse anybody. Here's a guy that on his website, you can buy his book, The Adventures of Norman, Oklahoma. And here's this character in his podcast named Norman, Oklahoma, but they're different. And I didn't want to have that out there. So I basically took Norman, Oklahoma, and he became Abner Franks. And rather than doing Gary, Indiana as Virgil Bean, Virgil has a deep voice, whereas Gary has a higher voice. Gary is Norman's cousin. Virgil and Abner are just friends. That was a lot of explanation. Enjoy the show.
Well, I don't need a fight. Shamaloo!
You're listening to Just Another Fanboy, episode 69, the absolute very best of Norman and Gary. folks. Welcome to episode number 69 of Just Another Fanboy. I'm your host, Steven, and other than this intro and the outro, this is probably all the new content you're going to get in this episode. This is kind of a special episode. I mentioned a couple episodes ago that I've been listening to some of the older shows, especially episodes 1 through 25, and I tend to forget exactly how big of a part Norman and Gary were in regards to the show itself. They were a huge part of the show back then, and I really want to bring them back into the fold, as it were. Get them on episodes each and every week. Norman doing his View from Norman, Oklahoma, Gary doing his At the Movies or whatever. Just get them on the show and feature them each and every week. Now, I don't know how possible that's going to be because, frankly, I can't even get them to show up to do the intro to their very special best of episode. So we'll see down the line if we can get them in. I do want to say that the title, the absolute very best of Norman and Gary, is kind of a misnomer. This really isn't probably the absolute very best. This is just me picking and choosing from certain things throughout the last 25 episodes. And I wasn't able to get it all in, so maybe we'll get some more of this at some point down the road. So sit back, kick your feet up, pick the lint out from betwixt your toes, and just enjoy the absolute very best of Norman and Gary. The View from Norman, Oklahoma, a weekly segment in which our resident bitter old fanboy pisses and moans about the comic book industry, or just anything that generally pisses him off. And so, ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you Norman, Oklahoma.
Thank you kindly, good people. This week, I'd like to cast our eyes back just a few weeks ago when editor Steve Wacker left DC for Marvel, and the storm that seemed to follow on the internet regarding this move. Fanboys from all corners of the web gathered round their computers to voice their opinions and act as if they had every right to pry into Mr. Wacker's personal life to discover why he was leaving DC for Marvel. It got caught out of hand as folks posted their theories deduced from various statements Mr. Wacker had made. You know what? Who cares, right? Who really gives a fig what this man wants to do with his life? But DC fans went a little crazy. People were up all hours of the night combing through several message board posts, trying as they might to glean just some small reason why the man would give up on DC and the many titles he edited, such as 52. Some of these sick little netheads even went through Mr. Wacker's trash and took pictures of the poor man bathing in Jell-O with wicker mannequins dressed like flying monkeys from the Wizard of Oz. As a matter of fact, I heard one tale of a reader who went by Steve Wacker's house to sell Girl Scout cookies, only to be greeted at the door by a very hairy man in lederhosen.
Whoa. What is your problem?
What?
With the exception of Steve Wacker leaving DC for Marvel, nothing else you've said has any basis in fact whatsoever.
Well, I
think you need to apologize to the listeners, and especially Steve Wacker, for what you said.
What? Look, I'm Norman, Oklahoma. I don't apologize to anybody. As a matter of fact...
You know, I could just fire you.
Hello. This is Norman, Oklahoma. I'd like to apologize most sincerely to all the listeners of Just Another Fanboy, and most especially to Mr. Steve Wacker himself for all the lies I've just stated in this program. Steve Wacker has not, to the best of my knowledge, ever taken a bath in Jell-O with wicker mannequins dressed like the flying monkeys from the Wizard of Oz. And the story of a hairy man in lederhosen answering Mr. Wacker's front door was completely made up and was in no way meant to be mistaken for reality. I apologize, and I promise that this will not happen again.
Thank you, Norman, for your honesty.
Whatever. This ain't done between the two of us, sonny boy. Mark my words, this ain't done. So, Gary, what do we have here? Female Caucasian, 19, multiple stab wounds to the chest. What's this here stuck to the bottom of her foot? It looks like a rock of some sort. Granite, maybe. That's not just any granite. That's Bobby Lindell granite, only found on a small private beach just a mile away. That's going to be our murder scene. So our Vic was murdered at this private beach and then dumped here. I'll try to determine time of death. Is that the XK21 red spray you're using? That's right. I'll just spray a bit here on her left bicep, and the particles combine with the DNA fragments to determine the placement of the sun when it last shone on her while she was still alive. Tsk. Just as I thought. She's been dead for 2 hours and 43 minutes. Good work, Gary. Let's go round up everyone on the private beach and talk down to them until they confess.
This week's news and information you could have easily gotten for yourself with just a little effort is brought to you by Cortex DXLM QRZ. The pill for those of you out there who feel just a minor discomfort in the pinky toe of your left foot. Tell me, are you tired of feeling moderate to almost no pain 2 or 3 times a year in the pinky toe of your left foot? Do you find that not a year goes by that you feel an almost slight twinge in the pinky toe of your left foot while putting on a pair of socks? Have you ever kicked a football with your bare left foot and found that seconds later you could still feel the sting in your pinky toe? Well, now's your chance to try Cortex DXLM QRZ. Because little to no pain at all just a few times a year can sometimes be just a little too much. Just ask your doctor if Cortex DXLM QRZ is right for you. Cortex DXLM QRZ should never be taken with any other medication. Cortex DXLM QRZ should never be taken on the same day that you've eaten chicken. Cortex DXLM QRZ should never be taken between the hours of 5:30 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Cortex DXLM QRZ has been known to cause instant paralysis in 85% of patients. Cortex DXLM QRZ has been known to cause blood to flow freely from the eye sockets in 86% of patients. Cortex DXLM QRZ has been known to cause attacks by wild rabid badgers in 93% of patients. Cortex DX... Oh, never mind. It seems that Wildcats, issue number 2 by Grant Morrison and Jim Lee has been reported as being resolicited for March of 2007.
March of 2007?
Here we go.
That's gotta be a joke. Please. Tell me that's a joke. Please.
I'm afraid.
Tell me it's a joke.
I'm afraid not, Norman. I got it right here on a press release from D.C. It states, please note that orders for the Wildcats number 2 standard edition and variant edition have been canceled.
You gotta be kidding.
This issue will be resolicited in the January previews to be in stores on March 2007.
I'm just speechless. I don't understand how something like this can happen. What's wrong with the industry when books like this can be so damn late?
I don't know, Norman. And the sad thing is that I really enjoyed the first issue. So, I'm still going to buy issue 2, but now I got to wait 5 months. At least I dropped All-Star Batman and Robin, right?
I guess so. This is just a pisser, my friend. This is a complete pisser.
Yeah, well, I think we found something we can agree on, old chum.
Old chum? You really need to get out more often.
I think somebody needs a hug.
Oh, piss off.
Oh.
I'm out of here. You call me when my segment's
Don't
up.
go.
See ya.
Norman.
I don't know. You're mad at me now. I can't sing when you're mad at me. Besides, I know you don't really want to hear it.
No, really I do. Please, sing the song for us, Gary.
Yeah, Gary, sing the dang song. I'm sure Steven will like it. Okay. I'm taking up space. I'm taking up space. I'm taking up space in your podcast. I'm taking up space.
I'm taking up space.
I'm taking up space.
I'm taking up space.
I'm taking up space in your podcast.
Okay, great. That was
taking up space.
I'm 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 taking up space
in your podcast. I'm taking up space.
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 I'm taking up space
in your podcast.
Okay, again, great.
I'm taking up space.
Come on.
taking up space.
I'm taking up space.
I'm taking up space.
I'm taking up space.
I'm taking up space
in your podcast. I'm taking up space.
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 I'm taking up space
in your podcast.
Okay, great. That's enough. No more. I don't want to.
taking up
Come on,
space.
taking up
guys.
space.
I'm taking up space.
I'm taking up space.
Guys, if you don't stop, I'm gonna have to get violent. Do you want me to get violent? I'm gonna get violent on you.
taking up
Don't make me get
space.
violent on you. Oh,
I'm
fine.
taking
Here
up
I go. You want it?
space.
Here it comes.
I'm taking up space.
Take that. There. Okay. Then, all right. You two try to hijack my show again, I'm gonna blow the both of you up. Got it?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Yes, sir.
Okay then.
This week's news and information you could have easily gotten for yourself with just a little effort is brought to you by Rossman's Toe Floss.
Howdy. This is Gary, Indiana. You may know me from At the Movies with Gary, Indiana. Played each week here on the Just Another Fanboy podcast. Let me tell you, there's nothing I enjoy more after a hard day out on the job than to kick back in my recliner, pull off my socks, and pick the lint out from betwixt my toes. The only problem is that after, when I want to chew on my fingernails, I have to get up and wash my hands because they taste like toe sweat. And that ain't good. But thanks to Rossman's Toe Floss, I can clean betwixt my toes without touching them at all with my fingers. Which means I ain't got to get up and interrupt my sitting and relaxing to wash my hands before chewing on my fingernails. So try Rossman's Toe Floss, the hygienic way to clean betwixt your toes.
Rossman's Toe Floss, because toes, sweat, taste, and fingers just isn't cool.
I tried to teach you how to handle comics in the 6th grade. But no, you wanted to play Little League instead.
Hi, this is George Hrob, and when I'm not busy tinkering with my home liposuction kit, I download and listen to the Just Another Fanboy podcast with your host, Steven. Take it away, my friend.
A listener's feedback.
Hello, my name is Alfredo, as in the chickbone, Alfredo, and I would recommend me because I have the tasty sauce and I have the long noodles.
Okay, so I have no idea who sent that or what it's supposed to represent, but I loved it.
This week's news and information you could have easily gotten for yourself with just a little effort is brought to you by Hogshead Coffee, the coffee with a great taste of pork. Once in a generation, a product hits the market with such mass appeal that shoppers from all corners of the globe flock to their local stores. Many innocents die, trampled to death by a mob of greedy consumers who have nothing more on their collective minds than procuring this latest innovation. Such products include Cabbage Patch Dolls, Tickle Me Elmo, and now, Hogshead Coffee. Hogshead Coffee brings to you a flavor that is both unique and robust. The good folks of Hogshead Coffee use only the richest of beans grown special in the wilds of Madagascar. These wonderful little beans are then fed to a blue ribbon prize-winning hog from Kansas named Daisy, where Hogshead scientists spend hours a day picking the beans from Daisy's fecal matter before bringing them to you. It's this process that gives Hogshead Coffee that great taste of pork that you, the selective coffee drinker of great taste, have grown to love and demand. Hogshead Coffee, the only coffee with the unbridled taste of swine. From the makers of Sheep's Bladder Ice Cream.
This is a test of the emergency podcast system. This is only a test. This has been a test of the emergency podcast system. Had this been an actual emergency, you would have been instructed to kiss your sweet butt goodbye. This has only been a test.
Norman, could you come out here for a moment? Could you come out here for a moment, please? See, Norman and Gary don't normally hang out with me here in the living room while I'm recording the show. They tend to hang out in the kitchen, or what they like to call the green room, until their segment comes up.
What? What the heck do you want?
Well, Norman, I just wanted to say that I was sorry.
You're sorry?
I'm sorry for making light of all you have to say each week in the View from Norman, Oklahoma.
What, seriously?
Seriously. You really bring a lot to this show each week, and it may have taken me 10 episodes to notice, but I'm noticing now, man.
Oh, well, thank you. You know, you're not so bad a guy yourself.
Well, thank you, Norman. That's mighty big of you. I love you, man.
What?
I love you, man, and I really mean that.
Oh, well, thanks. Well, look, I gotta go now, okay?
How about a hug?
Well, I don't know about that.
Oh, come here, you big lug. Oh, I love you, man. I love you, man.
I love you too, man. I love you too.
This week's news and information you could have easily gotten for yourself with just a little effort is brought to you by no one. There is no sponsor for this week's show. Nothing. Not a sausage. Not one sponsor was willing to pony up the meager $376,927.67 that I ask of sponsors to be mentioned on this most important of podcasts. And that brings us then to the podcast Spotlight. In this week's comic book podcast Spotlight, we take a look at the Just Bill's Comic Long Box podcast. You can find that at hell, I can't find it. Screw it, I'm done with crap. Not doing another one of these stupid Bill and his stupid podcasts. Screw him. Screw him.
Hello? Hi. This is Gary, Indiana. I guess Steven has decided he's not going to finish a show today, so it looks like it's up to me. He is in such a fiery rage over the existence or non-existence, as it were, of the Just Bill's Comic Long Box podcast that he's just decided he's done. He's done with the show. He's very angry and he's very upset, so it's up to me to finish. So I guess the first order of business would be to turn off the music. Can we get this music turned off? Somebody? Can we get the music turned off? Oh, okay. Here we go. All right, music's off. So I guess the next thing we need to do is, find out where we were. Unfortunately, when Steven left, he threw all his papers on the ground. So I guess, here, let me just look for him over here. Oh, here we go. All right, here's the notes. I'm not sure where we left off here, because they're all out of order after you threw them on the floor. So, let's see. We've done the picks of the week. We've done the news and information. Okay, here we are. And now it is time once again for the View from Norman, Oklahoma, a weekly segment in which our resident bitter old fanboy pisses and moans about the state of the comic book industry, or just anything that generally pisses him off. Ladies and gentlemen, my cousin, Norman, Oklahoma. All right, stop the dang music. Now, explain this to me. He left? Yeah, Norman, he just got up and he left. What? Why would he just leave his show? I don't know, Norman, but we have to finish up for him, so we need to get this. Well, need to get this sucker going. But you're telling me he just left? Yes, Norman, he left the show, and now it's up to us to finish it. But why would he just up and leave his own show? That just don't make no sense to me. But he left, Norman. It doesn't matter why he left. He left. So we need to get this show finished, and we are currently recording. Oh. So get going with your view or whatever you want to talk about. All right, already. I guess I can get going. All right. Well, okay. So I'm all out of whack here. Hold on. Okay. So I was recently looking into one of my old journals and reading some stuff that I had written about a year ago, and I thought for this week I'd just read to you from a journal. So here we go. Ready? Anger has just grabbed a hold of me by the chest hairs and is pulling them out one by one. Fury is standing just off to the side, waiting for anger to finish up so he can start in on sticking small, sharp objects under my toenails. Rage is currently lurking about the building, looking for a cup of coffee because he knows it's going to be a long night once he gets his chance with me after anger and fury have had all their fun. Now, I'm not normally one to let my darker emotions have the better of me like this, but today something has happened. Something so devastating, so emotionally crippling, that I don't know how I can possibly keep on working. Some person, or persons unknown, have crept their way into my life and changed it so unequivocally, so dramatically, that I can barely see the letters on my keyboard through the red fog of complete and bitter hate that's hovering just inches from my face. Someone has stolen my lunch. See, my morning routine is fairly, well, routine. I get up, I have a poop, I shower, I shave, I get dressed, and then I make my lunch. You know, when I make my lunch, it's nothing special. Just a sandwich, roast beef, mayo, and cheese. And I usually pack it away into my lunchbox and haul it on to work. This morning, however, the realization hit me that I had left my lunchbox at work, so I was forced to put my sandwich in the type of bag one receives at the local grocery store after answering the word plastic when you are asked that most depressing of questions, paper or plastic. My lunchbox is actually a cooler. I put ice packs in it to keep my sandwich cold so I won't have to eat roast beef and cheese slathered in spoiled mayonnaise. And so, with no cooler, I had to place my bagged sandwich in one of the communal refrigerators our company provides in the main cafeteria area. And some jerk stole it. They just stole it. Who does that? Did someone need that sandwich more than me? Is this a situation where we have someone at work that is down on hard times and has to revert to stealing lunches just to feed themselves? I seriously doubt it. This is some bastard who isn't down on their luck. This is just some cheap prick who knows that he or she at any time can walk into that cafeteria, open up one of the 5 fridges that are in there, and get themselves a free meal. Now, I am faced with the fact that if I want to eat, I'm going to have to get in my car, burn my gas, drive to a fast food joint, and purchase a lunch. The sole reason I bring my lunch is because I'm on a budget, and as much as I'd like to eat a cheeseburger every day, it's just too darn expensive. So I guess I could just steal someone else's lunch. Anyway, that was an entry from my journal from last year. Hope you enjoyed it. Well, thank you, Norman, for your view this week. It looks like what Stephen has up next, I guess we'll play bloopers from this week's episode.
Please, come over to the Python Land board. Son of a cracker. Thank you, Peter. Peter's brother would be Jesse, who did leave our very first voicemail. So they go to talk to Claire Crapinoli. In this week's comic book spotlight, we take a look at the Just Bill's comic long book. In this week's comic book podcast spotlight, we take a look at the Just Bill's comic long book podcast. Long flingy.
Well, this brings what can only be described as a very messed up episode to a close. And so I begin. Body of rock with an orange hue, deep-set eyes, the color of blue. Strength of many, a heart of gold, must clean himself thoroughly from fear of mold. Was once a man, now looks a beast, had to buy new clothes when his mass increased. He cannot dance, he cannot sing, he's the ever-loving, blue-eyed thing. Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you again, Lord Crisp. And now this week we have... Oh, good Lord.
I'm taking up space.
I'm taking up space.
I'm taking up space. Normally here is when I will say stop, but I'm going to let this song fade out. Here we go to the fade right now. Now this week, I want to talk about the influx of folks coming into my local comic book store wearing fishnet stockings over their heads and singing cowboy songs about penguins. Is he gone? Yep, he's headed for the bathroom. He should be gone for at least 10 minutes. Good, because this week I don't want to talk about comics. Instead, I'd like to embarrass Steven something fierce. You see, my old buddy Steven made the mistake of inviting me to come spend Christmas with him and his family over at his parents' house. And his little brother Mike had this, Christmas present for Steve. And it was a book that Steven wrote, not really a book, it's called My Valentine Book, that Steven wrote back in February of 1980 when he was 7 years old. He wrote it for school, and it's called My Valentine Book, and I felt it would be funny to read it over the air. So, here we go.
All names have been changed to protect the innocent.
My Valentine Book by Stephen Orr. Some people think a heart is in your body, but this heart is different. This is a sweetheart. A sweetheart is when you love someone like a girl. I love Sweetie McPretty.
That's sweet.
Because she is pretty. She is so pretty, I would kiss her until her lips would come off. And she would kiss me back. And my lips would come off, and it would go over and over and over and over and over and over and over until we love each other, I hope, and we will act like gorillas.
Gorilla.
We would swing and swing good, so good, and people will think we love each other.
Boy, that's some funny stuff, Norman.
Yeah, it is.
Boy,
Yeah.
old Steven's gonna be right pissed off when he hears this.
Well, I hope so. Serves him right for, all the stuff he's done, like slapping you last week. That wasn't cool. Call this point one in my game of revenge against the host of Just Another Fanboy, Steven. Point one.
Point one. Point one, you betcha.
That's right, Boy, I tell you, he's going to listen to this tomorrow night or tomorrow, sometime, whenever he listens, he's going to listen to it. He's going to be so pissed off.
Yeah, he is. Yes, he is.
I
Yes,
can't
sir.
wait to see the look on his
good.
face
Yeah.
when he,
No.
What's so funny, guys?
Nothing.
What are you talking? What did you
Nothing.
guys talk?
Nothing.
Oh my! What is this? Where did you get? Is this my Valentine?
No,
book?
no.
Where did you get?
No, we're...
Please tell me you did not read this.
I'm not involved.
Please tell me you did not read this on the podcast. Please, Norman.
Yeah.
Did you read this on the podcast?
Yes, I did.
Oh, my
He read
God.
it. He read it for everybody to hear.
I can't believe you did that. This is this was some. I was 7 years old
Don't be
when I wrote
ashamed.
this.
Oh.
This. Oh
Come
my
on.
God! I can't
was not
believe you guys
involved.
did this.
It's part of your
Oh,
heart.
my- Get out!
It's
Leave.
in your heart.
Get out of
Come
there!
on.
Get out of the
Come
house!
on.
Get out of the house!
It's in your heart, buddy. Come on, don't be ashamed.
Just
1
leave.
point. 1 point. 1-0. I'm a winner.
1 point. What is that supposed to mean? 1 point. 1 point.
Yeah.
Okay, buddy. I'll
point.
get you. I'll get you one. I'll get
Come
you.
get some.
Take your 1 point. Stick
Come
it
get
straight up your.
I'm out of here.
Okay. I'm sorry. Well, there you go, Norman and Gary. And I think really all I can say is that I'm sorry. I apologize. Deep, deep, deep within my heart, I cry out my apologies to you for having to suffer through that. Of course, my apologies aren't sincere because I might put together a couple more of these within the next few months. So, yeah, just pay no attention to the man behind the mic, okay? So until next week, or next episode, or whenever, I'm Steven. I'm just another fanboy. Take care of your teeth.